Okay, I have 5 o'clock by my clock here. So I am going to call this October 12th meeting of the Utilities Service Board to order. First item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from our September 28th meeting. Are there any questions or revisions to the minutes from the board? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, and Latrina, can you please call the roll?
Parmenter,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Kapler.
Yes. All right, minutes are approved. Next up, our approval of the claims. We have standard invoices in the amount of $856,817.58. Are there any questions or comments on the standard invoices? Yes, Ms. Burnham.
I just had a question about the purchase of the 2 vehicles that were the line items 1 and 2 on page 1. That were those for, what were those for?
Cindy, you're on mute.
Anyone?
Yeah, Cindy's figuring out mute. Were those the vehicles that we purchased last year? We just finally got them in? I know we just received 2 vehicles from Fleet, so it might be from that. We ordered them last November or December, and they got caught up in COVID, so it took a long time for us to actually get them.
And Cindy, did you try pressing your space bar to talk? Sometimes that works. Oh, that's not working either.
So it's just, are these just for use of the general fleet? Is that?
If it's what I think it is, it was for Brad Schrader and Tom Axum. It was replacements for their vehicles in the regular replacement cycle.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Seeing none, then is there a motion to approve standard invoices?
So moved.
And who seconds?
Second.
All right. And Latrina, can you please call the roll?
Bannock,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Kapler,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Sherman.
Yes.
All right. Next up are utility bills in the amount of $179,295.56. Are there any questions on utility bills or comments? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And Latrina?
Kapler,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Parmenter.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Next up are wire transfers in the amount of $505,496.51. Any questions or comments on wire transfers? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
And Latrina?
Sherman,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Kapler,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Bannock.
Yes.
Okay, and then finally is customer refunds in the amount of $12,498.37. And are there any questions or comments on refunds? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve the refunds?
So moved.
Second.
And Latrina?
Burnham,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Sherman,
yes,
Kapler.
Yes. Okay. Moving on, we have the approval of the consent agenda, and I will turn that over to Vic Kelson.
Good evening, everyone. I'm bringing with tonight the consent agenda, which is in the total of $36,263.02. First item is to Corson Fire and Security, which is $342.50 for investigating a supervisory alert on a fire panel at the service center. Electric Plus, $5,000 to replace conduit and wire to basin number 1 at Monroe. Cummins Sales and Service for $6,113.52. That's for a battery charger relay and thermostat at Monroe. Sunset Hill Fence Company, $725 to repair the detention pond fence on West 6th Street. Alpha Liberty Company, $1,716 for the annual balance and calibration of the lab scales at Blue Tree and Monroe. Beely Electric Incorporated, $20,000 for per year for on-call electrical services. And BL Anderson, $2,366 to install and program the level indicator for the ammonia tank at Monroe. Are any of these items that any board members wish to consider separately? Hearing none, if there's no opposition, the consent agenda will be approved as recommended by staff. I hear no opposition. The consent agenda is approved. Thank you.
Thank you, Vic. Okay, next item is a request for approval of Resolution 2020-08, which is a bid acceptance for Monroe residual pumping improvements. And Brad Schrader will tell us about this.
Hi, this is Brad Schrader, Engineering Department. At our last meeting, we opened bids for Monroe Residual Basin Improvement Project. We received 2 bids, and we are now proposing acceptance and to go ahead with the lowest cost bid, which was with Infrastructure Systems Incorporated. The bid tab is attached in your packet. This is going to be for $525,277. I'd be happy to, and then assuming you accept this, we'll come back at the next meeting with a contract. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve this resolution?
so move,
Second,
And Latrina, please call the roll.
Sherman,
yes,
Bannock,
Yes.
Kapler,
Yes?
Burnham,
yes.
Parmenter.
yes,
Okay, thank you. Motion is approved. Next up, request for approval of the First Amendment to the agreement with Control Freaks Consulting LLC, Phase 2 completion of the SCADA upgrades. And back to Brad Schrader.
Hi, Brad Schrader, Engineering Department again. This is an amendment to a contract we have with Control Freaks. They are going through our SCADA system at the plants and updating workstations and also working to get our historian in action. The way we worked it out with them is that we're doing it in phases. That way, as they complete a phase, they know what will be required for the next phase, and then they requote the next phase. So now we're looking at going into phase 2, and this is going to add $5,000 to the contract, making the total dollar amount $10,040. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? Seeing none, is there a motion to approve this First Amendment?
so move,
Second,
And Latrina?
Bannock,
Yes.
Kapler,
Yes?
Burnham,
yes.
Sherman,
yes,
Parmenter.
yes,
Okay, motion is approved. Next is the request for approval of a third amendment to the agreement with Wessler Engineering regarding the residuals holding basin improvement at Dillman. Brad Schrader, sorry.
Yes, hi. So this is an amendment with Wessler, who is our engineer of record for the Monroe Residual Basin project. Initially, they designed a sludge handling system and a belt press, which we have now have a design package for, but did not proceed with. Then we amended the contract just to design the residual basin, which we've just opened bids for and are moving forward with that. So this amendment with them now is for construction phase services, which will include record drawings, reviewing submittals, inspections throughout the residual project. So this is the final stage of the engineering services required for this project. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, seeing no questions, is there a motion to approve this third amendment to the agreement?
So move.
Second,
And Latrina,
Kapler,
yes?
Parmenter,
yes,
Sherman,
Yes.
Burnham,
yes.
Bannick.
Yes.
Okay, that is approved.
Thank you.
Next item, and thank you, Brad. Next item is a request for approval of a First Amendment to the agreement with Cassidy Electrical Consultants Incorporated for on-call services. And Cindy Shaw is going to talk about that.
Hi, Cindy Shaw, Purchasing. First thing, in answer to Laura, the question earlier about the vehicles, Laura is correct. Those were ordered last year, but they were just now received. There was a production delay because of COVID, so we just received those in this year, and just actually got them, I think about a month ago, so that they're getting billed right now, and the invoice is getting paid now. So the first contract for approval is for Cassidy Electric. We currently have an on-call with Cassidy Electric in the amount of $15,000, but services this year have exceeded the norm, so we're asking for an additional $15,000 to the Cassidy Electric on-call, which would bring the total to $30,000. Are there any questions for the on-call?
Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve this amendment to the agreement?
I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I noticed, Vic, that on the consent agenda, there was a $20,000 amount for on-call electric services for Beal Electric. And this is another, I guess, 30,000 for Cassidy. Are those different? Do we need two?
Yes, they're two separate contracts for two separate activities.
And they
Yeah.
do different things?
So this is Chris Wheeler with City Legal. These on-call agreements are to have multiple contractors of multiple disciplines, often the same discipline. So we'll have more than just one electrical contractor available. And then we rotate through those contractors when we have issues at any of the plants where we need somebody to come in at a moment's notice. So it's good to have multiple electrical contractors on hand so that when we need assistance, we can just go through, scroll through and see who's next up and get them called in to come in and do the work. It's all designed not to necessarily exhaust these funds with each of the contracts, but it is designed to reduce the number of contracts we see coming before the board every 2 weeks, and it reduces the amount of times we need to request emergency procedure for contracting, because a lot of times the issues that we're facing, they're a small dollar item and have to be done very quickly so that we can keep our operations moving.
Okay, thank you for the explanation.
Thank you. Any other questions? Oh, Mr. Sims.
Thank you. If I'm allowed, I know I'm not a board member, but if we've spent or exceeded the 15,000, the first part of that agreement, and we're now in October, do we have any way of estimating how much of the next 15,000 we'll spend before the end of the year?
Chris, I'll take that one. I don't believe we do. And one of the things that's happening right now is there are small repairs that are coming up because I think this was the increase for Cassidy was predicated on improvements that are taking place at Dillman. What the contractor is finding is we've got little repairs that need to be made in order for them to continue on with their work. And this happens a lot of time with the other plant, well, small repairs that just seemingly appear, they can't really be predicted. And so I hate to say it, but there's really no way of predicting in advance what might pop up as in terms of a repair.
Okay, thank you. And I know it's hard to anticipate, but next year with the same type of agreement, would you think that it'd be prudent to start with 30,000 in the first place? Maybe, or just depending.
Again, this is Chris Wheeler, City
Yes.
Legal. That's exactly what's happening. It'll be 30,000 per year for the remainder of the on-call service agreement. It renews every year by CBU's election. It's a unilateral election. If we want to renew the contract, we do, and if we will renew it, it's going to renew at 30,000.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve this amendment to the agreement?
No move.
Second.
And Latrina, please call the roll.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Kepler,
Yes?
Bannock,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Burnham.
Yes.
Great, thank you.
All right. Next item is the request for approval of a First Amendment to the agreement with Presidio for repair and/or replacement of exterior safety cameras at the CBU Service Center. And again, we'll go back to Cindy Shaw.
Hi, Cindy Shaw again, purchasing. This contract was with Presidio. It was originally for the installation of some exterior cameras and exterior camera work at the service center. They ran into some difficulty and needed additional time. So this contract has nothing to do with additional funding or needs no additional monies. It just is for an extension of time from September 30th to January 31st to complete the work.
Okay. All right. Any questions for Cindy? All right, seeing none, then is there a motion to approve this First Amendment?
No move.
Second.
And Latrina?
Sherman,
Yes.
Nick,
I think you said Bannock, right? If so, yes.
yes, sir, thank you. Parmenter,
Yes.
Kepler,
Yes?
Burnham.
Yes.
Okay, the motion is approved. Next item is a request for approval of a change order number 1 to agreement with Reynolds Construction LLC regarding the I-69 Sanitary Sewer Project. And for this, we have Jane Fleeg to talk with us.
Thank you. Yes, for the record, Jane Fleeg, Utilities Engineer. This is change order number 1 and will be the only change order that we will have on this project. There are 6 items for the change order, all additional amounts, unfortunately. The first item was a requirement to relocate the bore under 3rd Street. AT&T had a fiber optic duct bank that was in conflict with our proposed bore location. So we had to locate a new spot to bore under 3rd Street. That required additional work from the contractor. That's an amount of $10,453.84 and 9 additional days requested. The second was a casing pipe under 2nd Street near the Coca-Cola building. The original bid, the plans and the bid called for dirt bore. We received boring or potholing information from the state on where they thought rock was. Unfortunately, it did not turn out to be accurate, which is actually not uncommon in Indiana. So they had bid it as a dirt bore. They ended up encountering solid rock for about 42 feet of that bore. And it took a good amount of time and effort to get through there, changing the augers multiple times, chipping and breaking the rock, and repairing equipment. So that's a $46,638.93 change with no additional days requested for that one. The third is Bean Blossom Creek area. Although we had submitted plans to NDOT for approval for our maintenance of traffic, once construction was starting, they required additional maintenance of traffic items, a flashing arrow board, double signs, and temporary striping. That's $10,296.16. Again, 0 additional days. The fourth one was a culvert end section that had to be replaced off of Basswood Drive. It had to be removed for the bore pit location. And although they tried to salvage it, it was just not salvageable. So they had to replace that, excuse me, for $826.01, no additional days. The fifth is for the Sam's Club area. Again, differing site conditions relative to rock. The plans indicated they would be removing about 4 to 5 feet of rock in their trench excavations, but it actually required about 13 feet. So a substantial difference for a good portion of the length of those pipes. This required additional time, equipment, and then the bypass pumping while they were doing their work. So that is a $78,543.62 change with 8 additional days requested. And then the sixth item on here is just final quantity adjustments for relocating the bore at 3rd Street. The first one that I mentioned is for the changes that were required. And then we had line items in this contract. So it's adjusting the line items for $23,269. So that means a total change order of $170,027.56, and 17 additional days are being requested. All of these items are reimbursable by NDOT. So there should be no issue with, hopefully no issue with you approving this change order. Let me know if you have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Yes, Mr. Sims.
Thank you. Not a question. I was just wondering, is it economical or even possible that we could do core samples since it's the state data is not very dependable or can be not? Is that, or am I know I'm a novice and all, I don't know all that, but I was just wondering.
Yeah, we actually did some additional sampling in that area north of 2nd Street. We had to adjust the location of that bore several times, but unfortunately in Indiana, the rock, you could hit it one place and then 5 feet away, you don't have it anymore. So it's very unpredictable. We do on some of our projects call for rock boring so that we follow the alignment and know where the rock is. We did that on the old State Road 37 project. We had some rock borings that actually turned out fairly accurately. I think our consultant did the best that they could with putting the information together that they had. It's unfortunate that we had these errors, but again, it's just part of construction in Indiana.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, is there a motion to approve this change order?
No move.
Second.
And Latrina, please call the roll.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Kapler.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Next item, request for approval of a first amendment to the agreement with KMP Hydrant Services for fire hydrant maintenance and capacity testing. And Nancy Axum is going to tell us about this. Nancy?
Hello, Nancy Axum, Engineering. This was a one-year contract originally with the option to extend for 2 more years. The contract stated kind of a generic statement for the capacity testing portion to be a quarter of our hydrants would be capacity tested and the entire system would be maintenance. That quarter of the system isn't broken down equally, really, of quantity of hydrants in each quadrant. So when this is the 3rd year of that time frame to be able to use this contract. So the first year we were under the amount. We tested fewer hydrants than were noted in the contract. The second year, the same thing. We were under the $113,040 contract amount. In this 3rd year, there were more hydrants to be capacity tested. So all in all, the 3-year total is not going to exceed the 339,120 of each year's contract added up together. So that it's just really about kind of moving the money from one year to the other and making it balance out. So all in all, it doesn't ever exceed any of the contract's amount. It's just different amounts done in each year.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to approve this amendment?
So moved.
Second.
And Latrina, please call the roll.
Kepler,
Yes?
Sherman,
Yes.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Burnham.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. The motion is approved. Now, before we move on to old business, I would just like to remind the folks that may be tuning in on our Facebook live stream that if you would like to make any public comment, you can put that in the chat on our live feed, and then Nolan will read that during public comment for you. All right, is there any old business from the board? Nope. Any old business from staff? Any new business from the board? Any new business from staff? Okay, then we have subcommittee reports, and it looks like we have finance subcommittee. Oh, I'm sorry, Vic?
The only thing about new business is just a quick thing, and it will be, you'll understand shortly why I'm bringing it up. Latrina will be reaching out to all the board members with instructions as to how to execute a digital signature. This will simplify things when we have resolutions that need to be signed by everyone so that they don't all have to be in ink. So she will reach out with instructions for how to install the software and how to execute the process. So that'll be coming in the next few days.
Okay, thank you. Okay, subcommittee reports from the finance subcommittee.
Yeah, the finance committee met at 4 o'clock today to consider resolution 2020-09, which involves the issuance of bonds in order to finance certain wastewater capital projects, especially Dillman. If my memory is correct, the bonds were for approximately $30 million, and there was also $8 million that was already on hand, so that the total that would be dedicated to these projects was approximately $38 million. The presentation informed us that this would be an especially good time to issue the bonds, and the bond payments were laid out over the next lot of years, and the subcommittee was satisfied with the presentation, and we all agreed to bring it to the board as a whole.
Okay, thank you.
And Gene, this is Chris Wheeler with City Legal. We do have folks from our bond counsel and those who are putting together the bond financing. We have Brad Bingham and Jared Hall available. I think we have others on the call as well, but I'm familiar with Brad and Jared specifically, and they are here to discuss this matter in greater detail so that the board as a whole can receive information necessary for a proper vote.
Okay. So do you, Mr. Bingham or Mr. Hall, do you have, any comments you would like to make at this point?
Yeah, this is Brad Bingham. Good evening, members of the board. As Chris suggested, we're serving as bond counsel to the city for these proposed projects. What I'd like to do is maybe just give you a brief overview of the resolution. And then again, if you have questions for me, or then maybe turn it over to Jared. You should have received a copy of this proposed resolution number 2020-09. As Mr. Sherman indicated, this would finance two separate projects, largely the Dillman Road modernization project, but also the Jordan Culvert project as well. Maximum par amount of the bonds that could be issued would not exceed 32 million. As Jared indicated in the finance committee meeting, the actual amount's probably going to be something closer to 30, but this just kind of sets a hard cap on the maximum par amount. Maximum interest rate on the bonds would not exceed 5%. The actual rate would be determined by either a competitive bid process or through a negotiated bid process. Under either circumstance, your municipal advisor, Jared Hall, would sort of make sure that whatever the rate is sort of in line with current market rates prevailing at the time. The maximum length of the financing could not exceed January 1 of 2041. So roughly a 20-year financing. Could obviously go shorter if you want to, but couldn't go any longer. The resolution also authorizes if you spend money out of cash on hand to fund the project, you can reimburse that with bond proceeds if you'd like to. So it gives you that flexibility as well. And then again, it approves, it requests that the full council, the city council, adopt an actual bond ordinance that mimics these terms. And again, the bond ordinance is the real contract between the city and the bondholders once the bonds are issued. So overall, the USB resolution is sort of the first step in the legal process. Again, if passed tonight, it would then go before the city council.
Thank you. Are there any questions on this? Mr. Sims? No? Oh, yeah.
Did you call me?
Yes.
Well, I didn't have any, but since you called my name,
oh, okay.
I guess and I know we're approving or looking to approve 32 million, but I just heard that it's more likely to be closer to 30 million. So how do we, and I'm talking to a finance person, how do we work through that toward the end? Will something else come back to the city council to reduce that contract, or what happens to the 2 million if we bond 32 but only use 30?
Sure. So good evening. My name is Jared Hall. I'm with Cronin Associates, and we've been hired by the city to act as the municipal advisor on this transaction. And so I've been working with Laura and Brad and on these two projects. So the first thing we did was identify the projects, obviously, and the project costs. And so right now we're working with estimates. So the resolution approves up to $32 million. What, it basically it gives us, right now we're anticipating, and I'm going to go ahead and share, I've got a couple of worksheets. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and that'll kind of segue with what we're talking about here. So this first table, so this is numbers as of today. This is an estimated sources and uses of funds. So right now we are contemplating issuing $30,400,000 of bonds and using $8 million of cash on hand for a total of $38 million. And we have identified the two projects here, Dillman Road and Jordan River. And then there's some construction contingency easements and additional engineering. And then we've put in what I estimate to be a relatively conservative issuance budget. Most of that is an underwriter's discount at 1%, which as we get closer, we'll probably tighten that up. It's kind of market driven. So as we get to that point, but for today's figures, we kind of wanted to show you the high end of the spectrum. To answer your question, this is one of those situations that as we get further to the bid, and Laura, I know we talked earlier today, do we know when we're going to be getting construction bids on this? Or does Brad know?
I think Brad would be the one that can answer that.
So I put you on the spot there.
I'm not sure, so sorry.
Yeah, we're looking for bids in the December.
Okay, so right in line. I mean, what we want to do, what we'll probably do in this situation is as we get closer to that bid, I think we'll have a pretty good handle on how those numbers are going to come back. If there are extra funds, if we end up bonding more than we need, I'm sure there's other projects that these funds that could use these funds. In the event that, let's say, bids come in higher and we are short. I know I've talked to Laura, and you guys have recently gone through your rate study, and you have a pretty healthy, pay-go budget that you could tap into to make up for that shortfall. So that's the strategy. Right now, we're just going on the strategy of using the best numbers that we have to size the bonds, and as I think Brad mentioned, right now is an advantageous time to go to the market. We're still at really good rates. So, we want to make sure we keep this moving along. One thing we'll go through real quick. This would be an example. One mechanism we're using in the structure is called a wrap. And what we're doing is we're deferring a bit of principal, and what that's doing is it creates an odd repayment schedule for these bonds specifically. But what it does is when you look at the debt in whole, so this is all of the utility debt outstanding, we're trying to keep this maximum annual debt service down, because what we have to do is set aside a debt service reserve, which is driven off of that number. And so we've structured the bonds so that we keep this number down, and we don't have all this excess cash sitting idle, and we would potentially have to borrow. So we've created this unique structure to keep your debt service down, and then it fits in nicely with the rates that Crow and their rate study had done for you guys last year, and the rates have gone into place beginning in January of this year. Does that answer your question? I mean,
no, I think it does. Thank you.
Okay.
And you mentioned PAYGO budget. Is that PEGO? I don't know.
No, it's PAYGO, as in
PAYGA.
You're funding.
Oh, PAYGO. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, cash.
Gotcha.
Cash projects. And so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. Bannock.
So, what's the source of the $8 million in cash? Source of funding?
Hi, Laura Pettit Finance. That money is money that we have been, that was from our last rate case that we've been setting aside for this project. So we just put it in a capital projects line in our budget. And we're holding it until we're ready to start this project.
The way that worked out is we had a whole list of projects in mind when we did the 2016 sewer rate case. What happened was shortly after we completed that rate case, we received notice that we were going from IDEM that we had been over 90% of graded capacity for 3 years, and we needed to plan for a capacity expansion. So what we did was we accumulated those dollars rather than pursuing smaller projects as we were assembling the big project.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, Mr. Sims.
One more, just so that I'm clear. To pay for this bond for the next 20 years, is this revenue from the previous rate increase that has already taken into account?
Yeah, from the 2019 rate or 2018 rate case, or 2019, I guess is when we did it.
Okay, and that generated enough funds to pay for. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, so I guess at this point, the board should vote on approving this resolution 2020-09. Is that correct, Mr. Wheeler? Okay, so is there a motion to approve this resolution?
So move.
Second.
All right, and Latrina, please call the roll.
Parmenter,
Yes.
Sherman,
Yes.
Bannock,
Yes.
Burnham,
Yes.
Kepler.
Yes. All right, this resolution is approved. Thank you. Next item, staff reports. Vic Kilson.
I have a few items. The first one is I'd like to welcome Brian Rafano to turn his camera on. Brian joined us last week as a new member of the admin team. He will be focusing on organizational development activities like staff training, working with HR on all of our various activities that we do with them, the safety program and so forth. So we're really happy to have Brian. He is filling a position that was vacated recently when one of our staff members moved from that position into finance. So welcome, Brian. The second item I have is that on Wednesday, we go to council for our final budget approval. We received a 9-0 due pass recommendation at the committee of the whole, so I hope we're going to be okay there. We mentioned just moments ago the Jordan River Culvert project, along with IU and others that are taking the name Jordan off of buildings and so forth. We are discussing internally some ideas for a new name for that project. So I don't know what it will be, but we will come up with another name for the project. It won't affect any of the paperwork. It'll only affect the name. We are still working on the waterworks rate case that we'll be bringing to you and to council in the first quarter of next year. We are working on both the calculation of all the needs and also completing the cost of service study. We were able to move the test year to be ending on March 21st of this year, which is, we chose that time because it was before we started feeling the impacts of the COVID pandemic. So we will be bringing that to you in the spring. We're still working on it. And the last thing is I received a text message right before the meeting from Julie Roberts, and she says to say hello to everyone, and she expects to be back next time. That's all I have.
Okay. All right, thank you. And yes, Julie, we look forward to having you back. Okay, then we will move on to petitions and communications from the public. And I know that we do have a member of the public attending our Zoom meeting today, and I wanted to give some comments. So Mr. DeJean, I'll turn it over to you, and you'll have 5 minutes for comment. And you are on mute right now.
Yes,
there you go.
I'll keep it less than 5 minutes. Thanks, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and for taking the time to listen. I do think you guys do a great job, by the way. It's a wonderful service, and I have no complaint with it whatsoever. I did become aware of, as a resident, became aware of something kind of unusual. I just recently purchased a new home, and I was disconnecting my water service. And in so doing, I was previously renting, and I recognize that a disconnection fee is standard. I mean, this is a wonderful disincentive to not paying your bill on time. But there are some instances, such as mine, where this doesn't quite fit the bill. In this case, I was merely transferring. The landlord had a month's notice, was fully aware of the date in which I was canceling the service, my water service, but they chose not to roll it over, to take it over. Now, in this case, the resident, myself, there was nothing else I could have done. I have zero control over that situation. And yet, unfortunately, I'm still being penalized for it. Being aware of the problem that this is intended to solve, I don't know that this could actually solve that problem. So I don't know that all disconnections of service are the same or should be treated equally. Therein lies my issue.
Okay, well, thank you for bringing up this issue. If you have any further questions or want to discuss it further, most definitely talk with our staff about that. But thanks for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you much for listening.
Thank you. And I also want to check with Nolan, who is monitoring the posts on our Facebook live stream, if there are any other public comments to share.
There is no public comment on Facebook.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, with that, I think we are finished with our agenda. Is there a motion to adjourn?
No move.
All right. Thank you all. We are adjourned. Have a good evening.